We were never talking about taking park space. As Councilor McGovern said, the notion is to take what's a meager sidewalk and turn it into a park sidewalk. What I suggest that you at least talk about in reference to this project is that the street, it be considered that the street is widened, the public way is widened away from this project. Yes, it involves the park. I know that's a big issue. And so the silliness that was presented tonight based on a letter in the Chronicle, which was more vindictive than anything else. Nobody said those things. And if it means taking parking spaces from commercial properties, public safety is at hand here, and there's no question that that's essential. There is likely not to be parking on the street, given the width.
Stuart Dash, Community Development, and as a first note for this project, city staff met out on a new street and have an agreement from the developer in principle to widen the sidewalk along not only their new project but their older project along New Street and Danny Park side, shift the sidewalk to the other side of the oak trees in Danny Park, and widen the street on that side of Danny Park.
It doesn't say take the park. We're talking about possibly, and we won't know until we see the report, 6 to 8 feet that may be taken.
I do chuckle at the conspiracy theories, but maybe I'm a little bit more used to them. But and there is no way are we talking about any intrusion into Danahy Park whatsoever. None. And so to say that is misleading people. It is not honest, and that is not what we're talking about.
Thank you. For the record, Charles Teague, 23 Edmund Street. I'm here to ask for an amendment to the New Street Policy Order. As background, this order follows the Planning Board hearing where testimony was that CDD and DPW already discussed taking park land from Danahy Park to widen New Street. I know the order doesn't say this explicitly, but everyone should know that's what the city said at the hearing. Take land from Danahy Park. Now, as you all know, I've spent countless hours defending Linear Park in my neighborhood from developers. You're all tired of me telling you how I caught W.R. Grace cutting down a tree in the park. So I'm offended by taking parkland to widen New Street. Beyond that, this plan is designed to allow Acorn Development to build a much bigger building on New Street. In exchange, they'll pay for extra large sidewalks and street trees. Not a good deal. But wait, there's more. Land will have to be taken from existing businesses to widen the rest of New Street, and the taxpayer will pay for that taking. Then the taxpayer will pay again to widen New Street. And the very worst thing is that we have the Concord Alewife plan that uses the Acorn Development's lot of land to, and I quote from the plan, to create strong physical and visual connection to Danahy Park from a new Fresh Pond Mall. And this plan's not even 10 years old. So when you read this plan, you see the broad outline of recreating the Fresh Pond Mall in the image of the Cambridgeside Galleria, which connects to the outdoors using the Leechmere Canal, because in here they have Danahy Park instead. So one thing this does, it highlights the dirty secret. Under Massachusetts state law, cities aren't required to follow their very own master plan. But here I submit it will be cheaper and better to buy the lot from the developer. You can both use that for the connection and to widen New Street. To actually follow the plan that you already have than to take other public and private land. So please add to the order that land will not be taken from Danahy Park and to look at taking the land from the developer. Thank you.
Good evening, Jan Devereaux, 255 Lakeview Avenue. I'm going to speak about a more mundane issue, good old New Street. And I am speaking tonight on behalf of the officers of the Fresh Pond Residents Alliance to express our conditional support of Policy Order 6 to, quote, discuss ways in which the city can improve the design of New Street for pedestrians and vehicles. And we would like to thank Councillors Carlone and McGovern and the Mayor for putting it forth. And while improvements for cyclists were not explicitly mentioned in the language of the order, we do trust that the city will look for ways to improve the safety of bike travel along New Street as well. The position of the Fresh Pond Residents Alliance is by now well known, at least in this room, that no further residential development should proceed until New Street has been redesigned and reconstructed to provide continuous sidewalks and bikeways for the entire length of the street on both sides. So while we do support the good intentions that are broadly expressed in this policy order, we are concerned that the wording of the order does not set any time frame for completing a redesign of the street. And further, since a decision is pending on this major residential project at 75 New Street, where the developer is seeking special permits that would limit options for the street's redesign, we ask that the order require the city to present designs for public review prior to this July 22nd Planning Board hearing on that same development. We also would ask that no permitting decision on 75 New Street be made until a comprehensive street design has been approved and funded. As you know, while the proposal to redevelop the former J&C Adams site into 93 rental units is what focused the public attention on New Street's lack of safety, these basic improvements should have been made when Danahy Park first opened over 2 decades ago. The more recent opening of Evolve Fitness has made New Street even more of a destination for recreation and physical activity. So we are very pleased that the Council recognizes New Street's pressing need for a comprehensive redesign, but we ask that any redesign be conceived within the context of a new master plan for the area, not merely to accommodate a developer requesting special permits for reduced setbacks. And as Charles Teague mentioned, without those setbacks, the developer acknowledged that the site would be pretty much unbuildable for any kind of density. There are no shortcuts to designing safe streets and livable neighborhoods. The public has waited for 2 decades for the creation of a street worthy of the flagship park it serves, rather than settling for an outmoded road to the town dump. Redesigning New Street to meet current and future needs will require the city to show more creative vision and to make more demands of developers than it has demonstrated up to now. So we ask that the city take the time and the care to finally get it right before any further development is permitted on New Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Councillors. Lee Ferris, 269 Norfolk Street. I'm here to give some comments from the Cambridge Residents Alliance on a few of the orders tonight. The Cambridge Residents Alliance last year developed its platform, and one of the principles in that is that public lands must be used only for public benefit and should not be given away. On New Street, again, our principle is that public land should not benefit private developers, so we don't want to see any land taken from the park and turned into a street to make it easier to develop that parcel. That developer needs to come up with its own solution and solve the problem itself, not count on our land.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Camacho. I live at 24 Corporal Burns Road, and I would like to address policy issue 6. I would like to thank the council for listening to the residents about concerns that we express on further development in the city, particularly on New Street in the Alewife Concord area. Policy Order 6 opens up an opportunity for city residents and the council to proactively develop the area as it transitions from prior industrial use to its evolving use as a residential, retail, and open space area of the city. A careful and thoughtful redesign of New Street, meaning the actual street itself, is sorely needed. However, the street itself is part of a larger emerging residential neighborhood area, and the design of each feature in that area in the neighborhood impacts that of the others. So I think that Policy Order 6 is something that we desperately need, but I need to support it with qualifications, and I can give you 2 quick examples. One of them is on New Street now, eliminating the neighborhood, eliminating parking on New Street will push cars belonging to guests of 75 New Street directly to the parking lots of Danahy Park, so that people coming to the park will not be able to have a place to park. That is happening now, and indeed the guests who, in their reviews of Yelp, actually delineate this. So the city at the moment is subsidizing the residents who live across the street, and so anything that's done in one part of New Street is going to bubble up somehow and somewhere on another part of New Street or the surrounding area. Also, with 75 New Street being built directly on the spot originally proposed for improved egress from the shopping mall, New Street has now permanently lost the ability to have that egress. I refer to page 35 of the Concord Alewife plan, in which there was supposed to be a street coming from the shopping center going directly through where 87 Park 87 is currently on New Street. So that's gone. Doesn't exist anymore. We now don't have the ability to make New Street safer by having a street coming in from the back. So these are just small examples that address improvements on New Street, and I urge the council to consider New Street, the safety and the redesign of New Street in the larger inclusive view, not just narrowly New Street itself. Please look at it in the larger view of what's going on in the back of New Street where the shopping center is. How is something on New Street going to push things back there or prevent further safe pedestrian bike development there, as examples? And at the same time, please urge the city the city manager to also look at this and to report back to you as soon as possible, because there are a lot of things waiting. I know there's a developer waiting, there's a master plan waiting, lots of things. So the city manager needs to move on this quickly so that whatever is done on New Street itself physically is done thoughtfully and takes the larger picture into account. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Maher and the City Council. I'm Kenneth Taylor. I'm an architect, a planner, and a resident at 23 Berkeley Street. I'm here today to support Public Policy Order number 6. I think it's very important to address the issues of public safety, and I think this is a perfect illustration of the difficulties of not having an approved master plan in which to do development. I support it with 2 amendments. The first is to set a time frame for completing a plan for improving New Street and making it safe, not only for that small section that goes in front of the current and past developments, but the whole traffic situation from Fresh Pond Parkway around to the other side of Alewife Parkway. The other amendment I would suggest is that you defer any further action by the city on the application for the development of 75 New Street until after there is a plan for, after the city has adopted a plan for making the changes to New Street and implementing them. I think that's very important, because if you proceed with further development without having solved the problems that need to be addressed in a larger master plan, you will be doing a disservice to the city. Thank you.
I also wanted to speak just very quickly about New Street. I can't add to very much to what's been said before, and I will only remind all of you that our parkland should be sacred. You all know that I am still angry and bitter over the previous council's giveaway of the rooftop garden in Kendall Square. We should never do that again. Parkland is essential to a decent city. And if you take a look at New Street and so much of the new development in Cambridge, what you will see is a city that says that we as a city, and we, the current residents, and for that matter, the future residents of Cambridge, do not deserve nice things. We don't deserve good infrastructure. We don't deserve good planning. We don't deserve even the way that you say it's close to the T station. Well, yes, it's close, but you need a helicopter to get there. We don't deserve good architecture, and we don't deserve good building. You can build big things and have them be good for a community. But if you build lousy things, I don't care what sort of planning you do. Lousy things will produce a lousy community. We deserve better, and our future deserves better. And yes, these kids deserve better.
My name is Paul Stephen Stone. I live at 219 Harvard Street. Dear council members, I speak in opposition to policy order number 6. Simply put, I don't understand the purpose of this order. I don't understand why 3 city councils would propose an order that would effectively enable a development that neighborhood residents vigorously and unanimously opposed almost 2 weeks ago before the planning board. I understand there's no mention of any specific proposed development in this policy order, but 12 days ago I was at a planning board meeting where the issue of new streets, insufficient width, and sidewalks became the focus of discussion for a proposed apartment complex at 75 New Street. And at that meeting, Stuart Dash of the CDD and Councillor Carlone both spoke about making the changes now being proposed in policy order number 6. So please, let's not deny that this isn't about 75 New Street, because it is. Even if it was just because of the coincidence of the timing, it still has an impact on a development that the residents in the area are dead set against. So the question remains, why are we here? Why have Councillors Marr, Carlone, and McGovern decided in their wisdom to make a present of city-owned parkland to facilitate a private development that even the developer admits would not be buildable? And why are they proposing this giveaway without exacting any benefits from the developer? Are we that desperate for new substandard luxury housing? I say substandard having read Yelp reviews from tenants of the developer's other housing development at 87 New Street. I put down some of the comments that were included in those Yelp reviews, but I won't read them now. I'll just leave them with you folks for later review. Policy order number 6 represents what some of us have feared for the last few years, that the City Council and city agencies like the CDD and Traffic Department are working for the betterment of developers as opposed to the best interests of Cambridge residents, and that too often the housing of future residents takes precedence over the quality of life of current residents. New Street is a mess and needs to be upgraded, no question about it, but not now. Not as a way to facilitate a dubious high-density housing complex that will negate any opportunity of connecting Danahy Park to the Fresh Pond Mall, as was envisioned in the 2006 Concord Alewife Master Plan. In case you haven't heard, Fresh Pond and Alewife are virtually in crisis, bogged down with too much development and overwhelmed by traffic. To blithely enable another developer to max out their visions of profit at the expense of neighbors and the safety of children traveling to Danahy Park ignores the well-being of your constituents and is an affront to your responsibility as stewards of our city. I urge you to reject this policy order and to immediately start rewriting the mission statement for all city agencies that seem to act almost habitually as though they were employed by the development community. Thank you.
Thank you.